Everybody, Mega Ruler 31 back here for FSI DFS. I will be covering the main slate for Wednesday, the 18th of August. McKinley 412 has the slate up for early, so pause this video if you're looking for the early content. Go to our channel, watch that one, and come on back, and we'll go over the night slate. Decent slate tonight. We have 10 games. A couple weather concerns early on, just in New York and Detroit. We'll start with the New York game. With the Boston Red Sox and New York Yankees, you have Nick Pivetta against Andrew Heaney. Not really interested in either pitcher. The total's at 10, seen 10.5. So I think they're looking for a lot of offense here. And there's a lot on the line here with these games. Yankees have clawed their way back. They're tied with the Red Sox in the standings, but they own the tiebreaker because they have they played, I think, 2 less games, so they have 1 less game in the loss column. So this game, whoever wins this could pull ahead in the division for the wild card. They're still both trying to chase Tampa Bay down. So I think Pivetta's he's had a better season this year, but still this Yankees team is just completely stacked, even though they're still missing, Urshela, Torres. Looks like Gary Sanchez might be back. And it looks like, the projected lineup, Tyler Wade and Gardner, although he's been, starting to come around recently, might be the only weak spots in it. And, they can alternate like righty lefty here. They just have so much to match up now. Just a dangerous lineup. So not on Pivetta. Andrew Heaney also, he's struggled against the righties, and I really like the righties here for Boston. So I think both these teams make great stacks. If you want to do a game stack here, don't hate that. So like weather-wise, I think they'll be okay. It doesn't look like really. It might be a little bit light rain early on. It won't be till like 11 p.m. before the heavy stuff comes. So they should be able to get that game in, no problem. Next game would be the Los Angeles Angels and the Detroit Tigers. They have Shohei Ohtani and Skubal. I don't really mind Ohtani here. I think, the Tigers, even though they've been better this year, still have a decent strikeout rate down the bottom of the lineup. So Ohtani at 8.6, like that. And Skubal on the other side. Besides Ohtani, Upton was off yesterday, but he had a home run the day before, but really hasn't done a ton. It's really not that much in this lineup here. It really scares me, even though it's primarily going to be a right-handed lineup. So I think, you can get away with Skubal at 7.4. I think he can get you anywhere from 12 to maybe 18 DK points, and that's decent for that amount. I think he'd be my second favorite cheap pitcher on this slate. There's not really many cheap guys I'm in love with this evening. Bat wise, not really interested in the Angels, like I said, and the Tigers, maybe as a leverage stack against Ohtani, but not really interested. And they're cheap, but not really too interested there. Next game, we have the Braves and the Marlins. We have Charlie Morton against Jesus Lazaro. Lazaro came over from the A's. He's been okay, but still this Braves lineup is pretty decent. Just looking at Lazaro. Yeah, no. 5 earned runs against the Cubs. Come on, they're horrible. We'll give them a pass with the 7 at Colorado, but the Mets 3-3. It's just not good stuff out there. Charlie Morton on the other side. I think he's solid. I think he's going to be my SP1 tonight against this Marlins team who really doesn't have much pop anymore. They have a 3.10 total, which is one of the lowest ones on the slate. So I think, Atlanta, the bat wise, I think you can look at them. I think they'd be a GPP stack for me. Not one of the primary ones I'm looking at tonight. Next game, we have a bullpen game. We have Spencer Watkins, I believe, opening for Baltimore, and Lewis Head opening for Tampa Bay, with Yarbrough coming in. Yarbrough really hasn't thrown that many pitches. When he's done, hasn't started a game. He's come back from COVID. So not interested in any of these pitchers. Bats, I guess, they're okay. Like Tampa Bay's got a really good bullpen, and even though the pitchers aren't great, DFS plays on Tampa Bay, they're pretty solid. So really not too interested in any Baltimore bats. I mean, they're cheap. Tampa Bay on the other side, I do like Watkins and this bullpen has struggled, and I really like the righties here. Even though Watkins is a right-handed pitcher, pretty much anybody here, I like him in a GPP here. So I think they're going to kind of get lost in the shuffle tonight with there's about, they'd rank probably 7th in my stacks, but they might be a little bit sneaky. They have been putting up some decent amount of runs recently, so somebody definitely to consider. Let's see here. Next game up, we have the Brewers and the Cardinals. I think this is going to be a pitching matchup. You have Peralta and Flaherty. I'm always cautious with the Milwaukee pitchers, and Burns last night didn't have too many strikeouts against the St. Louis team. Peralta, like, they have been talking about like kind of managing them and not letting them go too deep in the games to try to keep them fresh for the postseason. Like all the pitching staff for the Brewers, I know they have a couple guys out for injury, so that kind of put a damper on that. We have seen some of the guys going a little bit longer than we expected. So I think Peralta at 10-2 isn't a bad play, but I don't know if he's really one that I'm like would consider a top option tonight. I think, Flaherty on the other side against the Milwaukee team who can struggle. The totals in this game are very low. Milwaukee, it's 3.6. The Cardinals, it's 3.4. So I just really think that they might be maybe leverage stacks for offense, but not interested in the bats here and the pitchers. Like I might slide with Flaherty. I think there might be a little bit more K upside on the Milwaukee side, and you're saving almost $1,000 on that. Next game up would be the Seattle Mariners against the Texas Rangers. You have Marco Gonzalez. He just faced the Rangers recently and didn't do too bad. It was almost identical lineup. Wow, yeah, he put up 40 DK points, which I don't expect that, but that was at home against the Rangers. 2 games before that on the road, he had 16.5. He's really been 3 straight quality starts, giving up 1 earned run, no one runs against the Yankees, 1 earned run against Texas, 2 against Oakland, only 2 at Colorado at Coors Field. It's been a long time since he's really get blown up. It was way back in early July. He gave up 6 runs to Texas, but since then he seems like he's really found his groove, and I really like him as my favorite cheap pitcher, and I think he's going to be my SB2 to try to get some of these expensive stacks with Morton tonight. Fulton average on the other side and away. Seattle, I really like them. They're my favorite cheap stack. And when I go over lineup constructions at the end of this, I think if you want to pay up for 2 pitchers tonight, they make the perfect stack for you against Fulton Evich, who is just a horrible pitcher. Texas on the other side, leverage stack if you want to, if you think Gonzalez is going to be popular. Really not much in this lineup that's left. I don't even see Lau's like moved down to like the 5th spot. You have like people like DJ Peters, and Adolis Garcia has been having a decent season. So I mean, there's some pieces here. Garcia had a home run last night, but before that, it's been 5 or 6 games before he hit anything. Like Yanni Hernandez leading off is always really cheap, and actually he's had a couple decent games. Out of the last 5 games, he's had 16 DK points, 15 DK points, and 18 DK points with a couple bagels in between. So there is some potential there for a cheap stack, but we're talking more like a dollar YOLO thing. Next game up would be the Oakland Athletics and the Chicago White Sox. You have Cole Irvin and Lance Lynn. Lance Lynn, I think, is definitely a decent pitcher here also. Out of the 4 top pitchers, he'd be number 4 in my rankings today. Oakland just does, they've been hitting well recently, and they just don't have the K upside that I'm looking for. Maybe a little bit down towards the bottom of the lineup, but even people like Chapman, who I thought were completely dead, have like come back to life recently. Maybe it's adding like Marte to the lineup and some of these other guys during the trade deadline. Wind's blowing in here at 8 miles per hour, so I think Lynn's an okay choice, but like I said, I'd prefer Morton. I'd prefer Flaherty to save $1,000. I think I prefer Peralta against St. Louis, who offense has really not produced a lot this year. And then they've been very pedestrian. And I think Lynn would be number 4. Irvin on the other side, not really interested in. I think he's priced too high. And Chicago licks their chops against left-handed batting. So Chicago would be my second favorite stack on the slate. Oakland, if you wanted to throw a leverage stack in there, I think they would probably be one of my favorite leverage stacks of the night. Total's a little low, 3.78. Pricing's pretty high, so they really don't make sense. I mean, this is not something that you're doing in like a regular GPP tournament or even probably in a 20 max, but unless you're throwing in like $1 in the $4 one. Houston Astros against the Kansas City Royals. Zach Greinke against Brady Singer. I've been avoiding Greinke all year, but I think we're finally to the point where he's at a price and in a matchup where I think he's viable here. Not one of my favorite plays, but I think if you land on him in the price, I think he's definitely got a good matchup here. This KC team really isn't great offensively. There are some strikeouts in here, even though Greinke's strikeout rate has been historically low for his career this year. I think, they can artificially inflate that just with the way Kansas City is. If you look at the lineup, just remember that he seems to be a kind of a reverse switch pitcher. Righties hit him a little bit better sometimes than lefties. Brady Singer, not interested on that side. Houston, again, like I said, they're starting to hit a couple more home runs, but they just haven't been that super explosive offense that we saw mid-season. Again, I think they're just trying to grind it out, get ready for the playoffs. I mean, they did get Gurriel back. That's helped a little bit. I think when they finally get Bregman back. Alvarez was sick, so he was out of their lineup last night. So if he's back in, that helps them a little bit. So I think Houston would be my favorite GPP stack against Singer tonight, but I'm not one of my top 4 cash ones that I'm looking at. Kansas City on the other side, again, Greinke has had his struggles this season. I think they'd be my second favorite cheap stack on the slate. Next, we have Philadelphia Phillies and Arizona Diamondbacks with Ranger Suarez and Madison Bumgarner. Suarez, he can get hit. He doesn't go very deep. You're probably looking at 4 strikeouts here in about 4 innings. So I think he got up to like 80 pitches last time. So maybe he makes 5 innings here. It's a great matchup against the Diamondbacks. So maybe we get like 5 and 5. And for 5-7, you're probably looking at 10 DK points, maybe a ceiling of 15. So if you really need to go somebody cheap, I think, he makes a lot of sense just based on the matchup. But I don't absolutely love it. Like, not like SP2 cash consideration at all. Bumgarner on the other side, he's a 7-1 against the Philly team. He's actually pitched good this last 4 or 5 games, and he's actually had quite a few quality starts. So for FanDuel, where you're kind of looking for the points for that quality start to make it like 6 innings and give up, 3 runs or less, I think he's in consideration there because he probably will give up runs to this Philly team. DK, not so sure. I probably, for the amount of points you're going to get, I'd rather go for Suarez in a GPP and save a couple $1,000s for bats. Philly, second favorite GPP team behind Houston. I think Hoskins is on the DL, but you really actually have, besides Harper, these guys are relatively cheap. Like Segura, Real Muto are in the 4K range. McCutchen, the 3-8 right-handed matchup. Bomb, who is hot and cold throughout the season, but he's a righty here against the lefty Bumgarner. He's been hit or miss recently, but maybe tonight's the night. So, maybe like Torres or some other righty gets in the lineup and moves up in there. But I think they make an interesting GPP stack against Arizona. Arizona, I think, is a cheap stack against Ranger Suarez. Like I say, he's not going to go too deep in the game. Philly's build plan's okay, but we've seen him melt down several times this season. So Arizona might be a sneaky cheap stack to play in a tournament. Then finally, we come to the Pittsburgh Pirates and the Los Angeles Dodgers. Brubaker or Mitch White, not interested in either pitcher here. Pirates, I think, they have some cheap pieces. So if you wanted to stack them in a YOLO stack, that's fine. But Dodgers, I think, would be, again, even though they let a lot of people down, only scored like 3 or 4 runs last night. It wasn't the last couple of games they've looked really good in their matchup against Pittsburgh, but really haven't scored many. But I think this might be the night. So I'm okay going back to them. You've got lots of options like Turner, Muncy, Turner, Seager, will Mookie back in the lineup to the point where you used to be getting like 2 or 3 cheap guys in here. Lux is back. And now you might only be getting like 1 a night. So it's gonna be very, very hard to fit in. You got to go down a little bit on pitching to get them in, but we'll go over that in lineup construction. So let me just review it. Pitchers, top 4, Morton, Flaherty, Peralta, Lynn. That's the order I like them. For medium range ones, Ohtani, Greinke, Bumgarner, and FanDuel. Cheap ones, Gonzalez and Scoball. I'm going to fade Heaney, Tampa Bay, pitching situation, Pivetta, and Brubaker. For Pittsburgh, for stacks, Dodgers number 1, White Sox against the lefty number 2, Yankees in Boston would be 3 and 4. I think that that's a good game to stack there if you just want to mix and match them and not just do a 5-man with either one. GPP Houston number 1, Philly number 2, Tampa Bay number 3. Just remember the righties there, even though against a righty, are definitely in play. Atlanta would be 4. For cheap ones, Seattle, absolutely love them, and I probably would put them as right underneath my top stacks for the night is like number 5 before I even got to the GPP ones. And then Kansas City, Arizona, and Baltimore have cheap pieces that might work out for you. Leverage wise, I think St. Louis would be number 1 against Peralta, Oakland against Lynn, but the pricing is just so high on them. And then Detroit and Texas really don't have interest in some of the other teams that are on here. But again, GPP, if it works for you, stack them $1 for YOLO. But Miami just has like such a low total tonight. I'm just absolutely not interested in them at all. And I think there's another team I skipped, but so let's go on to lineup construction. So I'm going to share my screen here. Second, it says I figure out where DK is not loading. Okay, there we go. Okay, so let's look at some lineup constructions tonight that we have. So let's talk about paying up for 2 pitchers. So if I'm paying up for 2 pitchers, I would probably go Peralta and Morton. If I don't care about saving money, that's where I'm going. Then, like I said, my stack is going to be Seattle. So I'm going to take first base. I want France. I absolutely love what Toro's been doing this season since he's gone to Seattle from Houston. Seager's definitely in play. Hanger's definitely in play. And then Crawford fits really well at first base. So as you can see, at least you're just a little bit below 3K for the rest of the guys. I'm going to go to the other side of the game since I'm not playing Gonzalez for Texas. And at catcher, I am going to go with Pozo here. He didn't do anything yesterday, but his first 2 games he's been really good. And the thing is there's about 4 2K catchers that are projected to start tonight. So if he's not in, there's plenty of options to pivot to, and that will leave you about 3,400, which is more than enough for outfielders. There's actually 4 or 5 outfielders too that are at 2K and minimum that you could throw in there, and they would be good choices to get like another higher price guy. So that would be if you want to pay up for 2 pitchers. If you want to go with what I would think are the best two pitchers on the slate. I am going to go with Morton, and then I think I will go down to Gonzalez to save some money there. So then I think, like I said, I really like the White Sox to stack. So go do a White Sox stack. I am going to take Anderson, Abreu. I'm going to take Jimenez. I'm going to take Hernandez, and then I am going to look at Vaughn. Catcher again, probably would go Pozo there, but since I'm playing Gonzalez, Griner from Detroit's been okay. Seattle, if you can afford it, their catcher is 2,600, again in a very good hitting situation there. So something to consider. So let's see, where's Detroit? Griner. And that's for the last two positions, that gives you 3,600, which is another decent amount of money left. And then finally, the last one, we'll leave Griner there. It's cheap catcher. For this one, we're going to have to drop Morton down to Ohtani to make it work if we want to get our full Dodger stack in tonight. And that would be, we're going to take Muncy, Turner, Smith, Turner, and Seager. Actually, we have to take Griner out. In doing that, it leaves you 2-3. And like I said, there are a lot of different cheap outfield that you can do here. If you take 2K guys, you can get a 2-9 guy. There's a couple guys in that range are really good. So it does leave you some options. So pretty much that's where we're going tonight. Hit me up on Twitter at Megalord31. Leave some comments below. Please give us a like. It helps us get this video out and help other people, and subscribe to our channel. If you have any questions, like I said, reach out to us. If something majorly changes for a slate, check back around 6:30. Sometimes we'll drop some additional notes and updates if a game is canceled, something happens with COVID, if somebody important pitching wise is scratched and there's a new situation, we'll put some notes in there. So thanks for watching. Appreciate it, and good luck tonight.